You were told to set goals early, to define them, to write them down, to announce them proudly. That lesson was never about your success. It was about your containment. There are two categories of people operating in this world: players and pawns. Players never advertise where they're going. Pawns feel compelled to explain why they deserve to get there. The difference isn't ambition, it's exposure. You already know this feeling, even if you've never named it. That hollow moment after you achieve something you were promised would change everything. You hit the target, you cross the line, and the room barely notices. No elevation, no shift in power, just silence. Then the expectations reset. Higher, heavier, more demanding. You weren't promoted in the hierarchy, you were consumed by it. This is what no one says out loud. The system does not reward completed goals. It rewards those who control the conditions under which goals matter. When you declare a goal, you reveal desire. Desire signals dependence. Dependence invites management. People don't block what they fear. They block what they can predict. The moment others know what you want, they own leverage over your timing, your patience, your reactions. They can delay you, redirect you, use your urgency against you. Goals don't make you powerful. They make you legible, and legible pieces are easy to move. You've felt this invisibility, working harder while becoming more replaceable, achieving milestones while losing influence, running faster while the game stays the same. That confusion isn't personal failure, it's structural. Here is the brutal truth most never confront. Goals are not tools of power. They are declarations of intent in a world that punishes exposed intent. What looks like clarity is often surrender. What feels like discipline is often obedience. If something in this feels uncomfortably accurate, if you've sensed the trap but never had language for it, stay with me. What comes next isn't comforting, but it is clarifying. You were told effort wins, that if you push harder, something gives, that persistence is noble, and nobility is rewarded. That story keeps you working, not winning. Effort does not create authority, it creates visibility. And visibility without leverage is exposure. The harder you work, the easier you are to monitor, to measure, to manage. Talent was sold to you as protection, as proof of value. In reality, talent is a tool, and tools are owned by whoever controls the system. The more talented you are, the more efficiently you are used. The more indispensable you feel, the more replaceable you become. And kindness. Kindness is the most expensive mistake. You were told it compounds, that it builds goodwill, that it earns loyalty. What it actually does is signal tolerance for pressure, for imbalance, for disrespect. Kindness without power becomes permission. Fairness is not broken. It was never real. It exists only where leverage is equal. And leverage is almost never equal. You are operating inside a hierarchy that pretends to be a meritocracy, a game where the rules are invisible, where decisions are made before evidence is reviewed, where status determines whose effort matters. You set goals believing the system will notice achievement. The system notices patterns, how fast you respond, how much you tolerate, how badly you want it. Predictability is the currency you pay with. You work harder, you refine your craft. You explain your intentions so no one misunderstands. And slowly, something shifts. You're consulted less, replaced faster, acknowledged only when necessary. Not because you failed, but because you became easy to forecast. Goals turn you into a moving target, not for success, for control. Once others know what you want, they can slow you down, dangle it, withhold it. They don't need to stop you. They just need to manage your hope. This is why effort feels heavier over time, why progress feels narrower, why you're busy but stalled. You're not losing because you lack drive. You're losing because you're playing openly in a game that rewards opacity. And in that kind of game, the most visible players are rarely the ones in control. Centuries before modern language softened power into something polite, real strategists already understood the pattern. Niccolò Machiavelli never advised rulers to dream. He warned them against it. Dreams make you predictable. Predictability makes you controllable. Machiavelli didn't ask what should happen. He studied what always happens when humans are placed inside hierarchy. And the conclusion was brutal. Human nature does not move toward truth. It moves toward advantage. Self-interest is the engine. Fear keeps it running. Ego demands recognition. Status decides who speaks and who is ignored. This is why sincerity fails under pressure. This is why honesty doesn't protect you. This is why being right rarely saves you. People don't follow the smartest plan. They follow the plan that protects their position. They don't reward clarity. They reward alignment with existing power. If your ambition threatens hierarchy, resistance appears, quietly, politely, relentlessly. Those who don't understand this internalize failure. They assume they lacked effort. They assume they didn't communicate well enough. They assume the problem was execution, so they try harder, louder goals, clearer intentions, more visible effort. And in doing so, they expose themselves. These are the pawns. They chase outcomes publicly and wonder why doors close silently. They announce direction and feel confused when obstacles appear from nowhere. They believe ambition alone should be rewarded. Those who understand the game move differently. They stop declaring intent. They stop seeking validation. They stop chasing outcomes directly. Instead, they shape conditions. They control access. They manage scarcity. They adjust timing. They influence perception without explaining motive. This is leverage. Ignorance is ambition without protection. It rushes forward unarmored. Understanding is ambition with structure, with patience, with defense. The difference is not morality. It is awareness. Once you see that human behavior is governed by fear, ego, and status, not fairness, you stop being surprised by resistance, and surprise is what keeps most people weak. Machiavelli didn't teach cruelty. He taught realism, and realism changes everything because once you understand the terrain, you stop running straight at the target and start deciding where the battlefield exists at all. What you believe about success is wrong. You were taught that intensity creates results, that wanting something badly enough bends reality. That desire, spoken clearly, summons opportunity. It doesn't. Desire is loud, and loud things are tracked. The world does not reward hunger. It manages it. When you want something openly, you step into motion. You chase. You explain. You justify why you deserve to arrive. And the moment you chase, the terrain stops belonging to you. Real power never moves first. It positions itself so others move around it. Goals are destinations. Destinations are fixed. Fixed points are easy to block. Strategy is different. Strategy is fluid. It does not announce where it's going. It alters the environment until movement becomes inevitable. This is the shift most people never make. They aim for outcomes instead of influence. They pursue milestones instead of leverage. They focus on arrival instead of control. And because of that, they are always late. Look closely at how power actually behaves. The most dangerous figures rarely state their ambitions. They don't post intentions. They don't narrate their progress. They let results appear without explanation, not because they are lucky, but because they are unreadable. Ask yourself this slowly. Who unsettles a room more? The one who announces their next move, or the one whose presence keeps changing the game without warning? When you state goals, you give others time to prepare, time to resist, time to redirect you. When you operate strategically, others react without understanding why. Goals lock you into pursuit. Strategy locks others into response. One reveals need, the other creates gravity. This is the core inversion. You don't succeed by pushing harder toward what you want. You succeed by making yourself difficult to deny, by controlling access, by shaping timing, by becoming structurally necessary. Goals say, I want to arrive. Strategy says, things move when I'm in place. One begs the world to cooperate, the other forces adjustment without asking. So ask yourself again, honestly, do you want to be seen striving or quietly positioned where outcomes have no choice but to follow because only one of those holds power? The moment you state a goal, you surrender information, and information is the most valuable currency in any power game. You think you're being clear, disciplined, focused. What you're actually doing is drawing a map for everyone else. Declared goals expose direction. Direction creates predictability. Predictability invites interference. Once people know where you're going, they don't need to stop you outright. They can slow you, redirect you, drain you. Psychologically, disclosed intent triggers response, not support, adjustment. Others begin recalibrating their behavior around your desire. They measure how it affects them. They decide whether to help, hinder, or harvest your effort. And most choose the option that benefits their position. This is the mistake almost everyone makes. They announce goals to feel accountable, to feel motivated, to feel seen. But motivation is irrelevant in a strategic environment. Visibility is not protection, it is exposure. The more clearly you define your destination, the easier it becomes to manage you. Your urgency can be exploited, your patience tested, your need weaponized. You think goals create pressure to succeed. They actually create pressure on you. Position works differently. Position does not explain itself. It does not reveal its end state. It simply exists, quietly shaping outcomes. When you move without explanation, others cannot prepare. They cannot time you. They cannot anticipate resistance points. You become unreadable. and unreadable pieces are dangerous. In chess, amateurs announce intention with every move. Masters conceal it until the board collapses. They don't race to checkmate, they control space. They limit options. They make every square hostile. By the time the endgame appears, it's already irreversible. This is what position does. It removes choice from others without confrontation. It forces adaptation without argument. It creates inevitability without announcement. Goals say, here's what I want. Position says nothing and gets what it wants anyway. One invites reaction, the other dictates it. If you want power, stop revealing destinations. Stop narrating ambition. Stop confusing clarity with control. Move quietly. Shape the board. Let others discover, too late, that the game has already shifted. Outcomes are brittle. They crack under pressure. They vanish the moment conditions change. Systems do not. This is where most people miscalculate. They fixate on results, titles, numbers, arrivals, and by doing so, they surrender control. When you chase outcomes, you become reactive. You adjust to resistance instead of creating it. You respond to obstacles instead of deciding where obstacles exist. Reaction is a subordinate position. Outcomes sit at the end of a chain you don't fully control. Markets shift. People change loyalties. Rules are rewritten quietly. If your power depends on a single result, you are fragile, and fragility is hunted. Systems are different. Systems don't ask for permission. They shape behavior automatically. A system controls flow of information, of access, of opportunity. When you own the system, outcomes arrive as byproducts, not objectives. This is the psychological edge. People who chase goals feel urgency. Urgency leaks. It shows in decisions, tone, timing. People who build systems feel patience. Patience destabilizes others. The common mistake is milestone obsession. Checking progress, measuring distance, broadcasting advancement. Milestones make you predictable. Predictability makes you manageable. The strategic alternative is structural control. You don't aim to win a single exchange. You aim to control the environment where exchanges occur. You don't pursue approval. You control access to value. You don't negotiate outcomes. You position yourself so outcomes depend on you. In war, amateurs chase decisive battles. They rush toward victory and exhaust themselves. Generals don't do that. They cut supply lines. They control terrain. They force the enemy to weaken itself over time. Victory arrives quietly, after resistance has already collapsed. This is how power actually works. Systems drain opposition without confrontation. They remove options instead of arguing positions. They turn strength into dependence. Once others rely on your system, your network, your resources, your timing, the outcome is no longer a question. It becomes a formality. Goals say, I want this to happen. Systems say, this keeps happening whether I speak or not. One requires constant effort. The other compounds in silence. If you want inevitability, stop chasing results. Start controlling structures, because the person who controls the system never needs to demand the outcome. It arrives on schedule. Desire is loud. It leaks through posture, timing, tone. It announces urgency before you ever speak. And urgency is a signal, not of ambition, of dependence. The moment others sense that you want something, the balance shifts. They slow the process. They raise the price. They test how far you'll bend. Psychologically, desire lowers perceived value. What chases is assumed to need. What needs is assumed to wait. And what waits is controlled. Scarcity operates in reverse. Scarcity does not explain itself. It does not persuade. It does not compete. It simply exists and forces recalibration. People do not respect what begs for attention. They respect what can withhold it. This is where most people fail. They want results now, validation now, movement now, so they follow up, they clarify, they overcommit. Each action feels proactive. Each one quietly erodes leverage. Needing speed communicates insecurity. Needing certainty communicates fear. Needing closure communicates weakness. The strategic alternative is detachment from single outcomes. When nothing must happen, everything becomes negotiable, on your terms. Scarcity is not absence, it is controlled availability. You respond slowly, selectively, without explanation. You don't withdraw emotionally, you withdraw urgency. This unsettles people. They are used to chasing reactions, used to reading need, used to pushing where resistance appears. When you offer none, they hesitate. Now they lean forward, they justify, they invest. Because effort increases perceived value. Masks hide need. You never reveal how much an outcome matters. You never show where pressure lands. You let your exterior remain neutral, unreactive, unreadable. Mirrors expose others. Instead of revealing desire, you reflect theirs. You let them speak first, push first, overextend first. They mistake your restraint for indifference until they realize they are the ones seeking resolution. This is the inversion. Desire makes you visible. Scarcity makes you powerful. One pulls you into motion. The other pulls others toward you. In chess, amateurs rush toward capture. Masters restrict movement. They don't need to attack. They make escape impossible. That is what scarcity does. It turns patience into pressure, silence into gravity, and non-need into dominance. If you want leverage, stop chasing outcomes. Stop signaling hunger. Stop proving interest. Let scarcity speak. It always does, louder than desire ever could. Momentum is fragile. It breaks the moment you speak about it. Every time you talk about your plans, you bleed force. Not metaphorically, structurally. Words disperse intent. They turn movement into narrative. And narrative invites interference. You think you're clarifying direction. You're actually slowing it. The mind treats spoken plans as partially completed. Psychologically, explanation creates false closure. Tension releases. Urgency dissolves. This is why talking feels productive and produces nothing. Silence does the opposite. It compresses energy. When nothing is said, intent has nowhere to go but forward. No audience to satisfy. No validation to harvest. No reactions to manage. This is where most people fail. They explain to feel real. They share to feel supported. They narrate progress to feel momentum. But momentum does not come from recognition. It comes from uninterrupted motion. The common mistake is premature disclosure. You announce plans before they harden. You describe ideas before they mature. You seek agreement before position is secure. And the moment others know what you're building, they begin adjusting. They comment. They doubt. They compare. They compete. Even encouragement weakens you because it replaces pressure with comfort. Silence protects you from this erosion. When you don't explain, no one can redirect you. When you don't announce, no one can prepare. When you don't seek validation, no one can withhold it. Silence keeps momentum internal, contained, unpolluted. This is why power moves quietly, not out of secrecy, but out of efficiency. Results that arrive suddenly feel inevitable. Results that are explained along the way feel negotiated. The strategic alternative is restraint. You let work compound privately. You allow structures to form unseen. You wait until movement becomes irreversible. Only then do results appear, not as promises, as facts. In chess, amateurs talk through ideas. Masters say nothing and remove options. Checkmate is never announced. It is revealed when escape no longer exists. Silence doesn't mean inactivity. It means protected motion. If you want momentum, stop narrating it. Stop converting intent into words. Stop feeding the urge to be acknowledged mid-move. Let silence do what explanation never can. Let it carry force forward until the outcome no longer needs defending. Power never comes from force. It comes from imbalance, scarcity, emotional control, information. These are the real currencies. The one who needs less controls more. The one who reacts slower dictates tempo. The one who knows more while revealing less shapes reality. Calm is not personality, it is position. The calm one dominates because calm removes leverage. You cannot rush someone who is not in a hurry. You cannot intimidate someone who does not flinch. You cannot manipulate someone who does not signal need. Silence unsettles because it denies feedback. No confirmation, no resistance, no emotional signal to push against. Most people collapse here. They fill the gap, they explain, they justify, and in doing so, they hand over control. Goals make you predictable. Predictability is exposure disguised as clarity. When others know what you want, they don't have to oppose you. They control timing, they slow momentum, they introduce friction at the exact moment your patience thins. Now you are reacting to their pace, not yours. This is submission. Most people fail because they cannot contain themselves. They broadcast intention. They leak urgency through tone, speed, repetition. Urgency is readable, and readable people are manageable. Reaction is the clearest admission of lower status. It says without words, "You moved me." Those above you are not always more intelligent. They are simply less exposed. They wait. They observe. They let others reveal pressure points first. Information asymmetry is quiet domination. You learn while they leak. They speak while you collect. They react while you remain still. Every pause becomes a test. Every silence becomes a mirror. Those who rush to resolve tension give away position. Those who can endure it rise. Power does not announce itself. It is assumed when others begin adjusting around you. When voices lower in your presence. When explanations lengthen. When people hesitate before pushing. By then, the hierarchy is already decided, not because you demanded control, but because you stopped giving it away. To gain power, you must not need it. This is the line most people cannot cross, not because it's complicated, but because it threatens their identity. Needing outcomes feels natural, human, reasonable. It is also fatal in a hierarchy. The moment you need a result, you advertise dependence. Dependence bends your posture, sharpens your urgency, distorts your judgment. You start negotiating with fear in your voice, even if you never speak it. Approval becomes oxygen, progress becomes survival, and survival makes you pliable. Detachment reverses this gravity. When you do not need the outcome begins to orbit you. When the wind no longer defines you, you stop chasing it. And the one who doesn't chase controls the pace. This is not indifference, it is independence. When you can walk away, every interaction recalibrates. Offers improve, pressure softens, manipulation stalls, because power does not live with the one who wants something most. It lives with the one who can afford to wait. This is the shift. You stop being a seeker, waiting for signals, hoping doors open, explaining why you belong. Seekers ask for permission without realizing it. They align, they adapt, they compromise early. Strategists do none of this. A strategist enters every situation knowing one thing: nothing here owns me. They don't rush agreement, they don't cling to momentum, they don't panic when progress slows. They let silence test the room, they let time expose motives, they let others reveal how badly they need closure, and that need, once revealed, becomes leverage. The willingness to walk away is not abandonment, it is insulation. It protects your judgment from urgency, your decisions from ego, your position from desperation. Most people never experience this power because they tie identity to outcome, lose the deal, lose the self, miss the goal, miss the worth. Strategists separate these completely. They are intact before the result, untouched after it. That is why they move slower and arrive sooner. That is why they speak less and are listened to more. The paradox is simple and brutal. Power does not come to those who chase it. It settles around those who can function without it. Not loud, not needy, not performing, just steady, just detached, just willing at any moment to stand up and leave the table without regret. That willingness is not loss, it is the source. This will sound cold. It is, because awareness strips comfort, and comfort is what kept you exposed. Innocence feels clean, honorable, safe, until it isn't. Innocence without awareness is not virtue. It is vulnerability wearing good intentions. It is walking into a system blind and calling it trust. It is announcing desire in a world that feeds on leverage. It is mistaking effort for protection. You can continue like that. Setting goals that advertise your direction, explaining yourself to people who never needed clarification, chasing milestones inside structures you don't control. You can keep calling resistance bad luck, calling obstruction misunderstanding, calling silence temporary. That path is familiar, crowded, comforting, and it leads exactly where it always has. Or you can delete the script entirely. No more declared goals, no more narrated ambition, no more emotional attachment to outcomes that weaken your position. You replace them with positioning, with leverage, with control over timing, access, and information. You stop asking to arrive and start arranging the terrain so arrival becomes unavoidable. This is not about becoming ruthless. It's about becoming accurate about how power moves, accurate about how people respond to need, accurate about what silence, restraint, and detachment actually signal. Once you see this, you don't get to unsee it. There is no return to comfortable ignorance, only progression. This channel is not here to motivate you. Motivation is cheap. It is here to initiate you into awareness. So don't subscribe to support this channel. Support is for causes. This is not a cause. Subscribe to mark a line, a private contract with yourself that says, I will stop announcing my intentions. I will stop confusing effort with power. I will observe before I react. This is not for everyone. It was never meant to be. But if you're still here, you already felt the fracture. The moment where the old rules stopped working. This is where spectators leave and strategists remain. Welcome to the inner circle.